think for a moment. He then asked if the thick bone was fixed. To what extent its strategy is. I quickly set out everything. I got 10 myself. Not fixed, but on a fixed week of every month. There will be thick fog on the moon. What about the devil? According to the ambush's description, we can speculate that it's okay. It has mid-class power. But for many reasons, we've never had a team. Take care of this demon. So, about the power of the demon on this moonship. It's all just speculation. Chen Hong heard its power in the middle of Class A. There's a little thought. He then asked for the royal reward. When it can be received. He quickly replied, it is the day. Right now outside the market, there were two strange young men coming. This short-haired guy with glasses is a six-pack. Top down. He looked around and told the guy next to him. Soon to know the devil accident in East are so cruel. In the beginning, there was no shortage of Buddha, and the king's body is there. This young man is also another master named Du Feng. That's right, the dead corpse is also dead. But the Buddha's face is different. His favorite man in Henan. It's quite effective. Without him, I'm afraid it will be difficult to deal with the devil in the future. Stop talking about this. To solve the problem of the owner, give it to us first. Then, to take the Buddha's bones with the relics of the missing Buddha. Inside the inn, Tran Hung just saw off the wind and said, if you can get the magic this week, it's likely to arrive in time. The last foggy day of the month in Taoyuan. Suddenly, he looked a little outside. 2 of the top 6 right now. It's slowly coming. He looked at the 2 men and asked them which name. The man on the left looks like the name on the right. But I don't know if you're going to investigate. I saw 2 strange people. This weird talk comes in. Then ask. You 2 are him. Without saying the full sentence, Feng Park came out. Behind him came a tail on top. Mounted a sharp lance, aimed straight for the wind. Chen Hung saw that thing and was horrified. 2 big eyes. Then there's no hesitation. Body in front of you. He grabbed the collar and pulled it to the side. That's why the nose. He aimed straight at Tran Hung and hit him. He really has no way. You can avoid this trick. But when that spear came flying in front of him, it suddenly stopped, waiting for the wind to fall back. Just ask how it feels. Instant response, not bad reaction. But too benevolent. If it's 2 against 1, they will not choose to protect themselves. To save a useless piece of trash. It's a little bit of hope. Chen Shang coldly looked at them and asked, who are you? He also used his sharp eyes to look at him. We are just like you. They're all poor bugs. Pushed to the front lines by the court. The morning is close to death. It was also on the side of the city. In the house before, that Tran Hung's teachers and students used to be girls for rent. He was hanged on a tree. 2 people in red robes are also here. He looked around for a moment, and the blind man spoke. This yard is not bad. Bright warm. People who die here should be comfortable. More so, this yard is already beginning to take on the characteristics of a living organism. From the moment we walked in here, it has quietly sucked its luck and the power on us. So why didn't we find out? It's because the energy is taken away. It doesn't matter to us. But at this rate, over the next few years, it will become a wicked house. You can swallow a whole class of warriors. Then it's a pity if it doesn't meet you soon. Then then, in the future, he had a chance to achieve that goal. Years of hard work, fate does not speak. It is now used by us as an altar. Pick up the Bodhisattva ship. It's really bad luck, haha. To the east turn HGG and the owner of 6 roads. We sat down together at the table and talked. Haha, it was very dark just now. Sorry, I hope you to understand. My brother has eyes like a blind man. Just now, I didn't realize you were from the government. I'm so sorry. The expression on his face was still clearly angry. I looked at him cold and didn't he speak. The 10-year-old also went down. I sat on the stairs watching them talk. A moment later, Tran Hung just looked at the tail of Du Feng asked, "What is this thing?" He immediately picked it up and said, "Why do you say this?" This is the weapon we have. While hunting in the mountains years ago. It is thanks to his blessing that I have become this form. But also because of it, I have entered the world of martial arts. The 10 virtues at the top of the stairs are also curious. Looking at the capital asked, "What's that thing that looks like a tail?" Double Wind quick answer. It's a gift from the mountains. There are animals when you come to the door of death. But I don't want to die like that. They're going to transfer all the specific power and my acceptance into some organ in the body. Then entrust it to anyone they have the good fortune to meet. At the end of life, if you're lucky, that person's body will not be removed by the Kier agency. That way, they can both continue to live. The guy sitting down there, he must be the one who got lucky. 10 good people heard here and asked again. Wait, that's so dangerous. There are still people who accept. Let it be on your body. The capital replied, that's because most people who have grace, they were forced to accept this bad luck. 10 Deem also looks towards the aesthetic capital. Optical globe is talking to CACA. It seems to have gotten a little bigger lately. Obviously at the local temple. It's only about the size of a pea. She can't quite see the capital. In her eyes, it's just a tiny bright spot. The bottom often falls. He stood up and patted his shoulder. We've met here. Just by the way, take back the remains of our master. You stay here. I went to receive the remains of the missing Buddha. I will come back to find you. When he finished speaking, he went out. Wait after they leave. He looked at Tran Hung and asked, "Are you interested in New York?" Chen Shang heard him ask so suddenly. I don't know how to answer, either. A face full of question marks. When he saw his expression, he explained. Situation in this Ha Nam province, you must already know. If we don't talk about the giants. To protect that place, you need at least 3 enlist fighters. The forces in Liao City have a reputation of being crowded, but there is also no. If you stay in A, you will not be able to avoid. The pressure is getting bigger. About exterminating demons from Liao City. Keep going like this, no matter how strong your power is. Your gas will also be wiped out by successive missions. He will die in the hands of a demon. The current situation is so dire. Fighters like us, they can only be connected. That way we can find a way to live. Chen Hung heard his expressionless face glance at him. You have come to convince evil. Park Feng continues to manipulate the right mentality. 6 states in Shinju. There are currently 4 enlist fighters. The owner is a veteran. Currently, that's starting to affect the top of the list. And then this Henan. What to do? Is there a group of fighters better suited for you than us? Come join us. You will have a team. The pressure to destroy demons in this chaotic world. You have to do this to keep it long term. Think carefully. Tran Hung heard him for a while. The face has changed a bit. Looks like I'm really thinking. Two lepers went to the morgue. Look at the body of the king in front of you. Often fake Russian thinking. Except for the chest and head. No other skin lesions. The monster that killed the wolf. See out use of melee is the main. Then he looked at the fat monk's skeleton. The bones are so clean. Not before death. The Buddha took all his flesh and blood. Give him the power to defeat the enemy. A few years ago, when everyone surrounded and destroyed the general's corps, I didn't see him despite this. Maybe the demons in the East are stronger than the SAO class. After thinking for a moment, he glanced at the wind. Where can I be cremated? I want to bring their ashes back. Save the nod. Please follow me back to Tran Hung. After a moment, the wind again asked, Have you finished thinking? Tran Hung also quickly replied, After thinking about it, I refused. Hear the opponent's answer. It makes the wind extremely amazing. He immediately stood up and slammed down on the table. Why did you know? Stay here for at most 5 years. You will also be killed by the evil class. Why would anyone still want to reject us? At this time, the two men returned. The man who had just come in asked, How did you two talk? Look at the tension ahead. He laughed reluctantly. Oh, I didn't come at the wrong time. A moment later, the two of you left together. It's hard to understand. I don't understand why he rejected us. The blind cannot see. East A has become a mess. You have a brain that doesn't know the way to go. Fall down smiling. Maybe he had his choice too. Maybe it's because we don't trust ourselves. Why are you going to the outside world today? Say it for people too. While you to argue and leave. I happened to see 6 kings, carrying Tran Hung's reward passing by. After a few days of moving, he finally made it to the east. People passing each other, but they don't pay attention to each other. Inside the inn, Tran Hung and Liu Feng were still standing there looking outside. A moment later, the old man asked, You rejected them. Chen Hung did not turn his head and glanced at him. You can guess. Keep your head up. With the special situation in Henan, fighters who want to protect themselves, they're all trying to regroup before you come. In the past, there were 2 fighters on guard duty. Because the pressure is too high, so he fled to Tian and Qinin. Tran Hung smiled. Before that, I agreed with the millions in Liao City. In the next 15 years, we're going to help them out 3 times. I have accepted people's requests. I really don't want to go. A moment later, the Pope brought weapons to you. Tran Hung. He held a simple sword in his hand and began to preach. The main ingredient of this simple pair of lugs, it's the mountain and the mountain. Mainly supply oxygen. Dark powers and magical charismatic martial artists. When you own this, you'll gain a tremendous amount of power. As for how to use it, look here. When he finished speaking, he used gas through drag reduction, hit out the outside. An electric lightning rod immediately breaks without hitting Ra. The tree outside, he was hit with this trick and burned black. When he saw that, he immediately grimaced. The old man likes this 100 generals very much. The young man smiled reluctantly when he heard that. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. In short, this fake has characteristics. Turn the user's gas into something else. It's almost identical to lightning. When using, just complete the process. Put the gas in and hit it when it's out. Tran Hung asked if there was any danger. The emperor replied, There are 2 things. One is that the user drops. Will be able to absorb lightning, which leads to being extremely vulnerable to lightning. It's best if it rains. Don't use this weapon. Otherwise, you will die very tragically. I asked again, and the second question is why. The second is that stretching will be gradual. It paralyzes the user's nerves. If exposed to dilation for a long time, your feelings will become extremely dull. Of course, everything is beneficial and harmful. Good to get used to it later. You won't feel the pain anymore. What's more, this will make you. I can't control my state. In a precise way, while fighting. And he's the one who used it. They were injured after the fight. They can't be cured and die. Chen Shang heard him explain. Immediately stroked Chin Hope, seeing his attitude continued. If you don't want this fake, then we can go to the top in exchange. If so, the process will be complicated. You're going to have to wait a long time. Chen Hong answered firmly after listening. No need to want this. After receiving the weapons, then he brought it back. When the two children saw it, their eyes lit up. Tran Hung doesn't pay attention to them, sitting alone by the window, drinking silently. In other words, it can also be considered a dark force, combined with the plant's ability to metabolize life and death. I can use both oxygen and the power of darkness. And this fake. Maybe you can deal with the devil in front of you, without the hassle of dealing with demons. Think for a moment. He turned his head. He looked at the two students playing behind him. Right, Master has to take a trip to the moon in a few days. You guys stay and watch the house. Ten good listening, then curious to ask. There is a devil there. Chen Hung also did not hide it. It's a perennial evil. Recently, Master has had a breakthrough. You need to find a worthy opponent to try. Choose again and again. Then the ghost of Cow Skinny in the dumplings is the most suitable. 10 virtuous excitement shouted. I want to go too. Tran Hung shook his head seriously. The devil is too strong. If you go, I have to take care of you. Next time you'll hear 10 good things. Why is that? Chen Hung laughed and waited for the master to return. Give me a proper demon to train with. Is that okay? 10 good listening, then gently nod. The most handsome man. The day started early in the morning. Liu Feng went to the inn to find Tran Hung. Chen Shang, who is inside, is also making arrangements. Get ready to go. See the wind coming. He stopped and looked out. Save the wind without hesitation. Give him a throw order. Your boss gave you permission to kill demons. But because the target is judged to be mid-level A, go to 8 cities. According to the record, it will be changed to a new one. Chen Hung didn't pay much attention when he heard it. Then he nods and goes out and leaves. The man at the top of the window saw him leave. Then speak up. Your master is gone. 10 serious facial expressions. So let's start too. As I said before, find a monster on my level. Let me practice my martial arts without hesitation. Tran Hung is very fast. He went to the forest outside the city. Suddenly, his bandits stopped on the side. A man wearing the strange face of a mule bar, out from behind the tree. Look at the glass on his mask. Tran Hung thought, it's a martial art. The 6-year-old is exactly as he thought. The Kier spoke up. I am the scribe. Case this time. Next, before you complete your mission. I will not show up. Chen Hung nodded. Clear. Move the scene to Chu Tuk Dai in Hadong City. I sat in my room sweating like rain. Fuck again. In his head, there was a constant echoing sound. The eye-shaped door is always closed. Even fighting the queen has never opened. I don't know because it's open now. Inside there are small and large spirits close together. Follow the door open. The sound outside also leavened Theo into it. Turn the scene to Tran Hung. He has now reached the fold. The whole village is now, of course, as recorded, was covered in a thick fog. I can see the surrounding is still quiet. Tran Hung shouted, I am a martial artist. They were sent by the government to deal with the demon. Is there anyone here? Can anyone come out? Tell me about that demon. Give me a second. A moment later, there's a house behind him, and there's a sound. Day is not convenient to go out. Please go to the church in the east of the village. Wait for the bones to melt. We'll call the village chief to find you. Do you think this is okay? Chen looked at the house for a moment. Then nod your head. Then he headed east of the village. Very quickly, he arrived in front of an old temple. There's another hole in the roof. Chen looked inside for a moment and said, looks like it's been abandoned for a long time. And also from the traces of the crime scene, can see there was a fierce battle in this place. The two sides fought, is the village guard and the moon demon Sao. After half an hour, the fog was completely gone. Tran Hung still stands in the temple waiting for the villagers. A moment later, he felt something. I glanced at her. I saw only one leader outside. Countless villages are coming in. Chen looked at him and asked, he is the leader of Sao Moon Village. He nodded his head. Yes, it is the old man who is Tran Hung immediately replied. Martial Artist Town East, he come here, in charge of handling the devil. When the villagers heard that, they were angry. How many years have it been? Yes, it's too late now. What else? The village chief looked at Tran Hung and asked, personal orders of the lower. Can you show him a look? Tran Hung without hesitation. Give him your order and give it to him. The old man took the order and squinted. Then return it to Tran Hung. This is not a good place to talk. Please come to the library. Tran Hung has no opinion. Just nod. Follow him. A moment later, the two went to the old man's house. Outside the door of the village, there are still 10 stories. The old man made a pill and then spoke up. These years, the government doesn't allow people to come here. We also ran out of ways. We have to invite outside fighters to help us. Tran Hung nodded, I understand. He said it a total of 3 times. We invite martial artists to defeat. 6 dead, 1 seriously injured. Those lucky to survive are now staying in our village. The villagers raised money. He just finished. Then someone pushed, followed by a wheelchair. Tran Hung saw that, turn around and look at the person in the wheelchair. Half of my body is almost destroyed. The air is not far from death. Tran Hung was a little surprised to see that. The injury is really heavy. The old man then continued to explain. Several times the request failed. We've run out of hope too. Fortunately for the devil, it hasn't hurt AI yet. Before the cattle in the village are eaten clean, then we're still safe. Tran Hung glanced at him and asked, people have never thought about moving to the village. Another town lives. The old man sighed. This whole Hanam province, except for large cities such as Liao, where else can I live in peace? And yet, the devil's appetite is enormous. It makes us afraid, but also because of it. These years, no other demons came to our village. Hurt people leaving. It's just a change of place. There is another demon. It's not as easy to talk to as it is here. Chen Hung heard him whisper and thought. I don't blame the government for not sending AI down here. Maybe the attitude of this village is also a cause. After a moment, he asked again, so you guys don't actually want to? It's very easy to deal with the devil. The old man quickly replied, "There are cattle in the village. We don't have much left." Solved a little early. It also makes people less nervous. You've never met that demon. You probably don't know how strong it is. To be honest, he doesn't think alone. You can handle it yourself. Shi Shan calmly looked at him. Please rest assured about this. I'm not a reckless person. If its power exceeds our capacity to bear it, we'll know it's hard to retreat. The next evening, the thick fog covered the entire village. Tran Hung stands on the roof of a house. Look at the giant monster coming from far away. If you look at it from a close distance, this demon, stronger than the devil. I met a lot of people in the city. Chen Hung kept waiting for it to come close to him. He also took out 2 of them. Look at the monster in close proximity. He was a little helpless. This is 20 yards. It's more than 100 yards, 20 yards. Come out and say hello to each other. Anyway, you can't get bored and leave. When he finished speaking, there was a gas rising from him. By his hand, he infused 2 lightning rods. Then he shouted out loud. Follow this scream of his. A purple lightning rod appeared. And then he goes straight to the devil. This move immediately made him take a few steps back. But it's only a few steps back. On him, there was no injury at all. Chen Hung saw that. His face became serious. It doesn't work. Next, a flower on the tree behind him broke. The flower is broken. There is oxygen on him. If it didn't work, then change to torpedo. When he finished, his body disappeared. Straight to the devil's head. I saw him fly. The devil immediately reached out his hand. Tran Hung quickly slipped to the side to dodge. Yelled out the ocean. Follow his scream. From within the consciousness, there is a golden light that rises up. Then hit him straight up. The devil looks at it screaming in pain. This trick is effective. At the same time, in a cornfield in the mountains, 10 good and rich capital are wandering here. I just went to the capital and said that this is the village. There are 3 demons. The first is the goblin. Trees and grass. It's contaminated by the gas here, so it turns into a goblin. It's a corn goblin. Its power is in the middle class B. 10, that sounds a little disliked. That sounds weak. Is there a stronger one? The pattern continues. A little stronger. There was a free fighter who died on the mountain recently. And then it turns into a dead body. It's moving around all day, just to find a master who can fight it. Its power is probably at a minus. 10 goodness heard of this child, but laughed reluctantly. This one is a little too strong, and the capital said, the 3rd child. There is also a spirit in the dry well. It only appears on a full moon night. It's going to actively lure people down the well. Power at range B or B minus. Not suitable for you either. 10, when he heard it, he looked at it. It also means that in these 3 demons, only the corn goblin, Kier, it's worth training for. That's right, the mayor nodded. That's right. More. If we talk about nature, the way this corn goblin attacks. Or maybe it's your ability to heal. If you can't fight back, you can run away. 10 good, feeling the contempt in his words. What's the anger? It's just a corn goblin. Why can't we fight back? Don't you despise me? I don't want to give a little face. But it's actually stronger than you. And again, you refuse to use the power of the seed of hell. The strategy is only sea level. 10, when you hear it, take it seriously. After a moment, you can ask a specific question. Is C work or C minus or C average? Class C is not decentralized. This is the lowest level. A little higher is B minus. Move the scene to the top. The village leaders are gathering in place, looking at the Battle of Tran Hung. The battle is still raging in the distance, even though the fog has cleared. But instead, there's smoke blowing through the sky. After eating a full blow of Tran Hung Duong torpedo, the devil was also hurt. But very quickly, he threw his hand at him again. Tran Hung quickly jumped up and dodged, a way to stretch his arm forward. It moves and condenses the power of Ra. Sen HGG torpedo. Very fast. A flock of magnetic lightning complaints appeared next to him. By Tran Hung. They flew in front of the devil. And then without hesitation, straight into his head. Shen Hong also ran up near the top of his head. When it's hit by a nuisance, he then developed the Air Force. Body strengthening. Use extremely fast speed. Soared to the top of the monster's head. Two levers clasped together in a straight line. The monster could not escape. He was hit in the back of the head. Then Tran Hung shouted, 10 ways to stop lightning for me. There's a red lightning in the sky. Look straight at the devil. After choosing this trick, the devil lies motionless on the ground. Tran Hung is like, so stand on top of it and watch and solve it. He just finished. The demon's body slowly disappeared. Tran Hung saw that and quickly pulled out the lecture. And then jump off. After landing on the roof of a building, he turned his head to the devil. Follow the body of the devil disappeared. And inside its body there's a small sphere. Inside as if it contained a galaxy. Tran Hung saw this. I have absolutely no idea what it is. At the same time somewhere else. Young man white shirt, standing in front of countless galactic spheres. The devil was killed. He also felt it. He immediately looked at a ball. Maintain label position. He just called, and there was an image behind him. He also wears white. But on his face, he wears a hat in the shape of an eye. He just showed up. I asked the prophet what was wrong. The young prophet sighed and said, I have seen you. Landmark placed in the page. It has been discovered by martial artists passing by. Maintain Kai label. This is not the best time for us. LAN shines the glory of the owner. You go to the site and bring that marker back. Remember carefully, let's not reveal too much about our abilities. Here is in a tomb somewhere. When you hear it, nod. The transmission has just ended. The tomb's around him. There are countless demons out there. He glanced around and then said, open up. Immediately under his feet appeared a black light. Then he disappeared on the spot. The demons on this side. The demon's body has mostly disappeared. The Kier sphere is still hovering there. Chen Hung watched him begin to make judgments. That's probably not the source of the mutation. Make this demon zoom in. Right now, on the other side of the wall, there's a black hole. The white man immediately came out from inside. Tran Hung saw the person coming and asked, who are you? The other person didn't notice the cold response at all. You don't need to know. Tran Hung displayed the fighting posture, asked further. Do you know the origin of this ball? This extraordinary tall demon was created by you. Right, Kier still doesn't notice. He turned his head in a different direction. The star of the bar is also here, Sao. It's too much trouble to act here. It will reveal my power. Turn HGG was twice blinded by sharp eyes looking at the enemy. Looks like you're not going to tell the truth. He didn't even notice that he took out a heart. I can only use this for you. Finished talking, he threw his heart straight towards Tran Hung. His heart just came out of his hand. It's instantly multiplied countless times. Then he stretched out his hands and shouted at the darkness. According to his voice. On the ground, there's a black hole. There's a lot of monsters coming out of that black hole. Tran Hung and the people of the bar. Covering one side, Kier. It's amazing. Very fast, a monster appeared in front of them. Tran Hung lowered his face to scold. These fucking corpses. The young man bit his hand. And then right on the badge with his own blood. One eye in hand. The only one who controls space and time. From trillions of light years away. From the deepest reaches of the galaxy. A plea from? Your pious faith has come to your hand. Young men screaming from hiding in the dark. I heard him say these words. Immediately startled. Next, without hesitation, he pulled the knife behind the man. But one of his knives was not cut down. Behind the Kier, there was a black shadow flying over him. Look at the black shadow behind the man in the white shirt. He secretly thought. Who appeared behind Kier? It's something summoned from the darkness. Of the Kier pagans. Young man, white shirt, not paying attention to the things around you. I will continue to pray for you. It's on the Google review channel. You don't have to use that. We must first destroy the creatures of the night. He lives by the shadow behind him. Think of it as youth-centered. A bright light came out. Here, black ball. I was struck by this bright light and dissolved. Young man in white shouts. Still trying to pray. Remember to leave a like. And a Google support channel subscription. He finished praying. Everything around him became quiet. The Kier sphere suddenly shrunk again. And then it blooms out again. Tran Hung is fighting monsters. It's hard to understand. This sphere is alive. It's the pagan Kier who did something. Contrary to what two people think. Young man in white shirt in his lap, extremely happy. Success, and then the ball disappeared in place. Appeared again. He was in front of the young man. In front of the unbelievable eyes of people. It's directly absorbed into his body. The young man stood still for a moment and then opened his mouth. The black hole opens. The black hole appears again. He just kept sinking like that. The young man saw that. He grabbed the sword to stop the enemy from leaving. See the enemy coming. The young man in white turned his head and glanced at him. You should act early. Young man of La Fresh quickly deployed Ra. Eclipse 6 carpet. But that just cut off the enemy's hat. In the end, let him escape. On the other side, the goblin from beginning to end hides on one side. Observe the situation here. He's running at lightning speed in the forest right now. The 6 signs of the prophet Ra are true. Inside the devil painting. It's really the mark of evil. We must deliver this news quickly. Go back to 6 levels. But he just thought about it. Suddenly, there were 2 black lights in front of me. His body was smashed by this trick. The young man slowly came. While I was in the closet, I paid attention to you. Run for all the sun. Move the scene to the top. Tran Hung now went in front of the young Kier. Wait for him to collect his sword. Then he asked the pagan who was. It's not your job. Your mission has been completed. On a specific amount of merit. At the end of the season, someone will come to you. Tran Hung still wants to ask something, but the enemy stopped talking. The search for the lair of evil. It's not the responsibility of the bar. When I get back, I'll contact my supervisor.